What's up, guys? I'm Tim. This is New Craft Workshop, and it's time. Got another holiday build for you guys. Today we're making two easy to build beginner and DIY friendly projects for Christmas decor, or maybe you want to sell them on Etsy or at Craft Show. Both of these ideas are made from Cedar Pickets, and our grand total today for both projects is going to be 12 bucks. You ready? Because I mean, come on, let's go. So this first Christmas tree that we're going to build today is made from two Cedar Pickets. Right now, Cedar Pickets in my area, I think, are about $3.50. As a matter of fact, if you catch them occasionally on sale, you can get them for $3. So $6 is going to get you this entire Christmas tree. Of course, short of your material like your glues and your fasteners and that type of stuff. But as always, with these simple build projects that we do, we're going to pop up a cut list. And we're going to pop up a tool list. Now the cut list is going to be a little bit different today because I am going to show you how I'm cutting this material, and then that's going to kind of determine the lengths of each piece, and you'll see what I'm saying once we get to that. So as far as the cut list today, there's only a few pieces that we are going to need for certain. We are going to need two Cedar Picket pieces cut to 3 inches, one piece cut to 29 inches, one piece cut to 14 inches, and other than that, all of the pieces that make up the actual tree, we're going to do that over at the miter saw, and we're going to do that step by step, measuring each piece up against the next. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. So as far as your tool list, another simple build today, we're going to need a saw of some sort. We're going to need some wood glue. We are going to need our brad nailer or hammer and nails, and we are going to need a drill / driver with a countersink bit and two 2-inch long outside epoxy coated deck screws. Anything that's outdoor safe. We just don't want something that's going to rust. So you've got your cut list, you've got your tool list. Let's get right after this first project. All right, so as you can see over here at the miter saw, we're going to take our saw and we're going to set it at 30 degrees. Now, 30 degrees is going to give us our top piece as an equilateral triangle. So we've got our 30 and our 30. This length right here is completely irrelevant because we're simply going to take this length, mark our next board, and we're going to take about 3/4 to an inch off of either side, as you can see here as I'm cutting this. And then we're going to take the next piece and we're going to do the same exact thing. And then we're going to work our way down until we have all of our pieces for our actual tree made up. Then we're going to take a piece, we're going to cut it at 29 inches. Now 29 inches is going to be the length we need to get a piece along the back of our entire tree, plus have about 5 or 6 inches left over for the trunk of the tree. And at the top, you'll notice I have cut a 45-degree angle in this piece. That is because when we put our top piece on, we need this to cover up and hide the big cedar picket that will be behind it. So we cut an angle in the top to hide that. We have two pieces that are going to go on either side of this to build out and stabilize our base of our trunk. And then we of course have our piece that is going to become our base where all of this is going to rest on. This is where we're going to drive our screws through the bottom. We are back from the miter saw. We have all of our material cut, and the first thing we need to do is just kind of lay this stuff out, get an idea of where we're going to glue and tack this in place. We are going to start with the top two pieces first, and this is going to go on top of our angled board. We just want to make sure that these two pieces are lined up in a way that we cannot see our angled board that we cut from behind, sticking out on either side of this. So this is where I am going to start right here with my top two pieces, and we're simply going to glue this in place, tack it with some brad nails, but I do want to flip this over and tack everything from the back side. So let's get this thing tacked in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with this board only because it's easier for me to hold this bigger board in place. And I'm going to kind of center this, make sure that once again we are covering up our board from the back so we won't see that. And then I am going to take this, flip it over, and then I am going to mark this in a couple of places so I can line it back up when I put it on here. And then we're simply going to glue this and tack this in place. Now, if you do not have a brad nailer, as always, feel free to simply use a hammer and nails. I am using Titebond 3 on this project because this will definitely be going outdoors. We're going to just put a nice, as a matter of fact, I'm going to take this off because I know I want a good amount of glue on here. And then we're going to just kind of spread this around a little bit. And then we can tack our board in place. And we're just going to line it up again with those pencil marks we made. That way we know everything is getting covered. I'm using 1.25 inch long brad nails. 1.25 inch, if you drive them in straight, are probably going to go through 2 cedar pickets. So I am going to kind of pop these in at an angle. And then just verify that they are not coming through the front. Then we can work on getting everything else kind of glued in place. We're going to work our way all the way down. Once I get all these tacked in place, I'll show you how we're going to build our base. So let's go. All right, we are to a point to where we have our tree made, and because we lined this up, our cedar picket behind is hidden and you don't see it. Next step is to get this base prepped. Now again, driving a screw through our base and into our cedar picket that is our trunk, it's going to be tough, number one, to line it up. Number two, it's not going to be super secure. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simply build out our base with a couple of pieces. That's where we cut those 3-inch pieces for. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to glue these and tack these in place. And if you have some cedar that is bowed and not seating completely flush on this particular piece, clamp it. We are going to do our best to get this to seat nice and flush so that it becomes, or at least acts as, one component so that when we drive our screws through the bottom, it's nice and sturdy. So, and then we'll flip this over and tack our second piece from the back. And then I am going to clamp mine together. I can do that off camera, but I do have a pretty good bow in this. Hopefully you can see this over here. It is nice and bowed, and look, that's typical of cedar pickets. So I'm going to clamp this in place. Now we have this nice sturdy base that is thick enough for us to pre-drill and make sure that when we drive our screws up from the bottom that we're actually biting into some material here instead of trying to hit just one of these boards that's only about 5/8 of an inch thick. So the last step is going to simply be to put our tree onto our base. I am going to mark this so I know where to countersink and pre-drill. And don't worry about the pencil marks. Those are just going to become the bottom of this. We'll just drill through this side, flip it over, and we know that we are in the center. So let me grab my drill, and we're just going to kind of eyeball. We know that our pencil marks right here are designating where we need to drill. So anywhere in this area, we're just going to try to center it up as best we can. And we're going to drill 2. And we're going to pre-drill and countersink. And then we can drive up through the bottom into our tree, wrap this project up. And right here, I usually just kind of start my screws by hand, frees up one more thing that I need to hold in place while I'm driving this stuff together. And then we're just going to bring this over to the edge, center our tree in our base, and drive these screws and I am, right before we wrap this up, I am going to clamp this like I told you I was going to, because it is a pretty good gap. What's up, guys? And that's it for project one. Simple build made out of 2 cedar pickets, less than $7, I think. I don't remember, $7.50 or so. We just made this really cool tree. This is gonna go out on our patio. I don't know what my wife's gonna do with it quite yet, but $7, you got yourself a nice piece of rustic decor. Now, finish on this. There's a couple ways you can go. Number one, of course, you can paint this. It is cedar. If you leave it natural, it's going to gray, just like your cedar fence does over the years. If you want to keep it this color, put about 2 coats of Thompson's water seal on here, and this will stay this particular color for at least 1 season. I would recommend every time you pull it down for your Christmas decorations, you pop another coat of Thompson's on it. But yeah, project one is in the books. Super easy build. Let's get on to project two. All right, let's get after project two. Now, project two, we are building this really cool lantern that I just showed you. Now, this lantern is going to have a solar light drop down in the top that is going to allow this thing to be lit up. And on the inside of your design that you cut out, we're going to put a light filter sheet, which is available in packs of like 25 or 50 over at Amazon. I'll pop a link down in the description. But it's going to give a little bit of color to whatever you have back there. And you'll see when you put this light filter in there, you might want to double up and do 2 to get a darker color, or just use 1 if you want it lighter. But it's definitely going to change the look of your lantern, and I think you're going to like it. So, as always with these builds, we're going to have a cut list. We're going to have a tool list. So let's get after it. Cut list. This one's going to be pretty simple. We're using a what's called a 1x6 cedar picket. They're actually 5/8 by 5.5, but whatever. 1x6 cedar picket. We are going to need 3 pieces cut to 9 inches in length. No, 10 inches in length. Always trust the cut list, because even though I say something, the words that are coming out of my mouth might not be what's real, so this is always right. 3 pieces, 10 inches long. 2 pieces, 7.5 inches long. That is all we're gonna need for this project. Super easy, all made out of cedar picket. Let's head over here. Look at our tool list. So of course we're going to need our saw. We gotta get everything cut to length. Then we're gonna need to rip one of those cedar pickets in half. I am going to be using my table saw. If you're not fortunate enough to have a table saw, use a hand saw. We just want to cut that board right down the middle so we have 2 equal pieces that are about 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches wide a piece. We are going to need a jigsaw to cut all of our design out. We're going to need a drill with a drill bit, at least big enough to poke a hole in your material to get your jigsaw blade into. You're going to need some wood glue. You're going to need your tape measure and a pencil. You're going to need a brad nailer, or if you don't have a brad nailer, of course, as always, a hammer and nail. And I think that's it. And again, always trust the tool list and the cut list, because in editing, I might think of something else, and if so, it always pops up at the bottom. So you know that you need it, even though I didn't tell you you needed it. So let's get right after this build. So the way this is going to go together is we're going to have our base, our back, and our front, and then of course a top. And we want to make sure we leave a little bit of a reveal in the front and the back. And so all I've done is come in 1/4 inch from the front and 1/4 inch from the back. Set my pieces right there, and then basically what we need is we need the distance in between here as our filler pieces. Now, mine just so happens to be 3 inches spot on. So I am going to take my other piece right here, and I'm actually just gonna rip this in half. Now, half of 5 1/2 is gonna get me 2 3/4. That's close enough to the 3 inches that I need to fill in that gap. That's just gonna mean I have a little bit more of a reveal on the front and back. So let's cut this thing in half. And listen, if you do not have a table saw, this is something that you can do with a handheld saw. I would recommend a pull saw. They are much easier to handle and get a nice straight cut with, but you can also do this with your miter saw. Do not ever put this material down widthwise on your miter saw, or excuse me, lengthwise with your blade. It is too tough to hold into place and the board can get away from you. If you're gonna use your miter saw, make sure that you clamp your material to your miter saw base and make sure your hand is out of the way of the saw. I would recommend cutting it by hand if you do not have a table saw, just to avoid any kind of issues like that. So, all right, we're back from the saw and we have all 6 of our pieces cut. We have our 2 face and back pieces, our 2 filler pieces on the side, and our top and bottom. We're gonna set everything aside except for one piece. This is going to be our face. Now, it's time to draw. You're gonna become an artist, and then you're gonna cut this thing out with your jigsaw, and it's gonna look freaking cool because you made it. So, as always, guess what I'm missing? Anyone? Seriously, if you can see it, let me know where it is. There it is, I found it. Holy crap, I cannot keep, I have like, seriously, I have 4 or 5 of these, and then I have a ton of regular pencils. I can never find them. So all we're gonna do is move this out of the way first off so you guys can see. We're gonna draw a tree on this. I'm gonna pick the smoother of the 2 sides, which is this one, and I am just going to draw a very simple tree. And I'm just gonna kind of sketch it out, come in a little bit, and then we're just gonna kind of make this a happy little tree like Bob Ross would say. So hopefully that shows up on camera. We just want the most basic tree we can get right here. And then we're gonna clean this up with our jigsaw. We can make our lines. This is just kind of a reference right here. We can make our lines a little nicer, and then we don't have to worry about our pencil marks, because once this is cut out, we'll just simply flip it over. Use the clean side, and it's easy, breezy, lemon squeezy. Is that the old saying? I know I'm old, but sometimes I forget crap like that. So, jigsaw, time to cut this out. If you don't have a jigsaw, then I don't think you can make this project, but if you do have a jigsaw, you can make this project. So I'm gonna grab a drill real quick, a drill bit and a drill. I just wanna get my pilot hole started for my jigsaw, and then we're just gonna cut this little tree out, and then we'll get this thing assembled. All right, we are back from the jigsaw, and we have this beautiful little tree cut out. Look, do a snowman, do a star. If you have a scroll saw, get real intricate with this. I have a laser, but I'm not gonna use my laser for simple little projects like this. But if you have one and you wanna use it, man, you can totally make this thing however you want to make it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are simply going to make our box. Now, the way that we design this, our small piece is going to go on the inside of our front piece. We are not going to go like that. We are going to go like this. That's how I design this tree. If you want to do yours different, what do we say here on New Craft Workshop? That's right, make it your own. I'm gonna glue this and tack this together. I'm gonna show you this first one just in case you're not familiar with how to glue and tack a board, because not everybody does. This is a beginner-friendly build and project. So we're just gonna kind of hold this in place. And if you feel more comfortable clamping this in place prior to hitting it with your nail gun or your hammer and nails if you don't have one, and watch this. Getting old, but I can still stretch. And kick. So, and if you caught that, you're freaking old like me. So, all right, we're just gonna pop a couple brads in here. Make sure that we line this up as good as possible. And between the glue and 3 brads, we are going to be totally sufficient. So I'm gonna finish this box up. I'll be right back. All right, there's our box. And look, I've mentioned this tip before on this channel, but maybe you're new and this is the first New Craft Workshop video you are watching. And congratulations, by the way. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. But when you are using a brad nailer, especially if you're new to using a brad nailer is going to sometimes blow out. And when it does, it's going to blow out to the left and the right because of the way the brads are designed. It's not going to blow out in this direction. It's always going to blow out left to right. So when you are tacking something on some material, you never want your brad nailer to go this direction, because if you get blowout, it's going to come out the side of your project. You want to always make sure your brad nailer is running perpendicular to the material that you are tacking into. This material right here, brad nailer perpendicular. Never run your brad nailer parallel. Just a friendly tip because it hurts like hell to shoot yourself in the finger with the brad nail. So we have our box, we have our base. Before we get this put together, we just want to mark and prep for the hole that we are going to drill in the top. We're just going to find the center of our rectangle here, and I am going to just simply measure over. I know that my particular board right here is 7.5 inches long, so half of 7.5. Quick. That's right, 3 3/4. And then from this way, we're 5.5. Half of that is, that's right, 2 3/4. So right here we have our hole marked out. This cross is where we're going to drill our 2.5 inch hole in the top to receive our solar light. So that's the next step. We got to drill a hole. Let's drill some holes, or let's drill a hole. Let's go. A hole. I'm actually going to set my top piece over my board. Just gives me something to drill a hole in with this big huge hole saw and not have to worry about getting into my workbench or putting down a sacrificial board. This hole saw fits into our cavity anyway, so we're going to just center this, drill our hole, and as always with a hole saw, once your pilot extends through the back side of this material, back your hole saw out, flip your material over, and drill from the other side. It's going to help prevent blowout. So let's drill this hole. All right, our hole is drilled and it is almost assembly time. All that's left is we're going to take our light filters and we are going to cut a piece that's going to fit behind our tree. As with 90% of the stuff that I do here at New Craft Workshop, I'm going to eyeball this, and I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to put a little mark right there, and I'm going to cut a straight line all the way up this filter, drop it in there, and of course I need a little bit more off of here. And then we'll drop this in here, and then I'll measure my top. Just going to raise it up slightly and pull some of that off. All right, so we have our stuff cut. I am going to just put a couple pieces of double-sided tape, one in each corner, just the smallest piece. And honestly, I am only taping this in place instead of gluing it, because if something happens to this piece down the road, weather gets it, bugs get it, chupacabra gets it, I don't know, something gets it, we can replace this little piece of green in our lantern. So I'll put my double-sided tape on here, and yeah, I'm going to make you watch me peel all 4 corners of this, because nothing says quality video on YouTube like watching Tim at New Craft Workshop peel the backing on his double-sided tape. Let me know down in the comments, 1 to 10, how much you're enjoying this right here. All right, we can drop this back in there. Just kind of push it in place with our double-sided tape. And boom, we have a nice green background. All that's left now, little glue, couple brads. We're going to put our bottom on, we're going to put our top on, And then I'll show you this light and how that's gonna work. So let's go. And if you're curious how I lined that up to make sure that my brads hit that, it's simply just because I'm awesome. So, same thing on the top. Okay, so here is our solar light, and we are just going to push this down into our hole. Now the great thing about using cedar is it is such a soft wood that this fits absolutely perfect in there. Now, I did make sure that I turned this on prior to putting it in there because there is an on-off switch on the bottom. And of course, when the light goes out, when it gets dark, you'll be able to see the light. So I'm gonna turn off the light. Let's check this thing out. I'll be right back. All right, that's it. I hope you guys can see this on camera. This thing looks awesome. Super happy with the way this thing turned out, and the green makes this tree look so much better than if we just had plain white light in there. So let me get the lights back on and we can wrap this thing up. That's it. Project 2 is in the books. So let's recap real quick. We have 3 cedar pickets. We have 1 solar light. $11 total. We were able to build this lantern and the Christmas tree. That's a pretty cool afternoon out in your shop, and you got a couple pieces of decor for the holidays. So if this is your first time here at Newcraft Workshop, please do me a favor, take some time to click that subscribe button. Join us every single week between now and the end of the year. We are going to be doing a holiday build project or 2 on each video once a week, and we also have a beginner's build once a week in between those as well. Give us a thumbs up for the video. Appreciate each and every one of you guys that do that. And if you wouldn't mind, please take 2 seconds to leave us a comment down in the comment section. One more thing, there's a new button on YouTube called the hype button. If you click that, it tells YouTube that you really liked my video, and it allows YouTube's algorithm to pump us out to more and more people, which we could not thank you more for doing that simple little task of clicking the hype button. Last thing, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Every one of these videos that we do, during the video, you'll see random letters pop up. That is going to form a word that has something to do with the holiday season. Yes, you have to unscramble them and figure out the word. 24 hours after I post this video, every single person that got the word right will go randomly into a drawing for a free base camp dust mask. And that's the mask I use exclusively out here in my shop at Newcraft Workshops. They are a show sponsor, and I have 5 people each of these videos that I'm going to give a mask to. I've already given away 10. I actually got them in the mail today, so you who have won should be getting your stuff soon. Unscramble the word, let me know. Easy, you win a free dust mask. So that's all I got for you on this video. Down in the description will be links to the lamp, the film, all the tools that we use here. It's our way of asking you to help us out financially without asking you to help us out financially. Click the links, get over to Amazon, do your shopping as always, as normal, like you normally do, and it helps benefit our channel. So that's all I got. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and we will catch you on YouTube.